Alright, just so you all know, this is the second time I'm recording this. Played through the whole case, or the whole rest of the case, and realized I wasn't recording the audio properly, so we're doing this again. I'm just going to pretend that I haven't, and react the same way, regardless if I know I'm wrong. By the way, I was wrong about a lot of things, but just so you know. I wish we hadn't been thrown out like that. I wish we'd managed to find some clue as to what that speckled band might be, yet we made surprisingly little progress in that room. We didn't manage to investigate at all, and I imagine that we won't be able to for a while longer. We'll never get past that sailor guarding the door. He's clearly glaring at us, as if to say, don't even think about it. Oh, wait a minute. What is it? Well, what happened to our great detective friend? Where did he go? Oh, yes! He's completely disappeared. When did he do that? He slipped away as quietly as the wind, but not before ensuring that these were securely back on my wrists. So, buddy, how you feeling? I really wish we'd had a chance to look around. What? Why you look like that? You want something? Maybe you want me to throw you out again, Oh, no, definitely not that. Next time I have to throw you out, I show you where lobsters spend winter. Understand? I don't know what that means. Understand? Maybe I should steer clear until he's forgotten my face. That might take a while. I don't think you'll ever forget your face. Wasn't that an internal monologue? Whatever. Alright, well, let's check out this room again. What's the inspector up to? It looks like they're still investigating in here. Yes, on that subject. I wonder if Inspector Hosanaga is unscathed. What do you mean, unscathed? Surely you haven't forgotten, have you, Naruhodo-san? Don't you remember what he said about allowing you out of the cabin to investigate? He was going to talk to the captain about it. He said he'd lay his life on the line for you. I severely hope that the man isn't about to duel the captain to the death on this matter. Oh, yes. But I'm sure he was exaggerating. Let's see what he has to say for himself. He might have some new information. You never know. Hey, buddy. Well, he's a little scathed. Ah, you're back. Inspector, what happened to you? Your face is... Please, don't worry about it. They're just scratches. Well, not really. Maybe by a bear. When I told the captain I'd given you permission to investigate, he told me he'd pummel me with his fist and then toss me overboard. What? But the pummeling was over in a flash, and he must have decided against throwing me overboard. So it was nothing, really. It looks like he wasn't joking when he said he'd lay his life on the line if he had to. Pretty aggressive reaction from the captain. Well, thanks to your efforts, we now know a little about the neighboring cabin. Yes, so I understand. Oh. I bumped into a man claiming to be a great detective a little while ago. I think his name was something like Herlock Sholmes. I don't think he was German, though. Ah, that explains it. Shall we compare notes, then? We can tell you what we found out. Yes, let's do it. So, what? Nikolina Pavlova? She's in the next cabin? Oh, do you know who she is? Please, what self-respecting ballet fan wouldn't know that graceful angel? He does have the quintessential ballet enjoyer look about him. Oops, I think I upset him there. Well, that tells us the neighboring cabin is unrelated to the case, at least. Oh, how so? Because angels don't go around committing crimes, do they? Well, I suppose you're correct. Oops, now I've definitely upset him. Inspector, has your investigation in here proved fruitful? If I'm honest, there's very little more I can do. Our duty is to make sure the scene isn't disturbed, ready to hand over to the Hong Kong police. So I'm just keeping watch here, trying not to take my eyes off the job. Oh, I see. Ah, there is one thing. I do have a small piece of new information for you. Oh, what? Yes, do tell us, Inspector. What you got? What is this new information you have, Inspector? It's this. The Barria's medical officer finished his examination of the body. I managed to obtain the report. Oh, Kazuma's postmortem report? Kazuma-sama. So, what was the cause of death? Damage to the cervical vertebrae is what's written in the report. His neck was broken? Yes, it would seem so. There were no obvious signs of wounds or other signs of injury, so at first I think they were considering poison. But it turns out they found no trace of poison in his system at all. Could they actually test for that kind of thing in this period of history? Well, what weapon was used then? Nothing has been found as yet, but the fact that there are no signs of a wound suggests it may have been a blunt object, something that wouldn't leave a mark. Which is difficult to think of examples of. Oh, I see. All the body's nerves run through the spine to the brain. A strong enough impact to the neck could induce death, as we've seen, yes. It is a possibility, and no obvious wound would be left. Well, I mean, I guess if you got, like, fucking judo chopped or your neck snapped by a martial arts expert, but, like, if you just got hit, I'd expect a bump at least. I have a second copy of the report. If it might be useful, you're welcome to have it. Really? Are you sure? Yes, it's fine. I trust you. To be fair, what could we actually do nefariously with a second copy? After all, if I didn't trust you, I'd never have agreed to you leaving this cabin in the first place, would I? Ah. The postmortem. So, what'd my man say? Oh, Mr. Sholmes was here, was he? Yes. He seemed to be enjoying himself a little too much as he crept about on the floor investigating. But then, he suddenly left. I suppose he must have become bored. Did he say anything at all? Actually, now that you mention it, yes. Just one thing, but he practically shouted it. It's shoe polish, was all he said. Oh, the stain? That makes sense. It would be that sort of darkish color. Shoe polish, I wonder what he meant. Now, he meant this dark. What else could he possibly mean? Purple shit isn't fucking, gonna be shoe polish now, is it? It was over there by the broken piece of glass, do you see? So, if it's streaked like that on the floor, I assume he has to have been dragged into position. Especially given it's a pretty fucking long scrape along the ground. Though I guess then why isn't the other shoe leaving anything behind? Ah, yes, that must be it. But how could Mr. Sholmes note it's shoe polish? Well, to be fair, now that you've told me, I can see why it is, but I also probably would never have guessed it myself. That leaves me cold, I'm afraid. I have no idea. What is it, Suzato-san? Well, Kazuma-sama was wearing leather shoes with a really dark tan hue. Dark tan? Sort of darkish red, then? Yes, a little like the color of red wine, but darker. I often repaired them for him. Oh, does this mean that this mark was made by the polish on Kazuma's shoes as they scuffed the floor? So, like, maybe he didn't even die in this room. That's really all I can tell you at this stage. I should return to my post. My fellow crewman's eyes are boring into the back of my head. Yes, that might be for the best, thank you. Ahem, ahem. Poor Inspector, he look exhausted. Oh, no. Well, I feel terrible that I failed to protect Asogi-san. Oh, get over it. It's been like 13 hours, dog. It's ancient history. I feel he was my responsibility. Of course, my pain is nothing compared to yours. You were his friends. The truth is, I seem to have had a heavy head ever since I woke up this morning. A heavy head? That's interesting. My head's still throbbing, too. So everyone was drugged, is what it's sounding like. So what are we gonna do now? We're gonna look at this again. All the books provide... neatly arranged. Yep, all over the place, and you tidied them up, didn't you? Alright. You have to look after the ship property. Unruly behavior in the cabins leads to damage. But it really wasn't me who knocked them over. Well, anyway, I feel much better now they're neatly lined up. I can't relax when things are untidy. Nerd. This is where Cosmo spent his final moments writing his diary. So even though they're unmarked now, I feel like we're having the same conversations about this again. It's almost impossible to believe he's gone. Cosmo left us a valuable clue in these words, I'm sure of it. We have to solve this mystery. We will. Hey, buddy. How you feeling? You! Where did you go? Oh, sorry, why? Who gave you permission for this? Well, Seaman Hosonaga did. That new Japanese, was it? Later I will roll him into ball and throw him in cold room. Alright. Whew, he's going back to guarding the door. Well, you know, he's really gone out of his way to help us, hasn't he? When we get back to Japan, we'll have to take him for a steak at the Carnival. That could be a very long time from now, Naruhodo-san. Well, I don't suppose he's gonna let me leave again now. Or maybe he, despite being mad, he just doesn't care anymore. Look, Naruhodo-san. Seaman Stroganov is gone. Strong enough? The burly Russian sailor who's always crossing his arms and glaring at us. Ugh, all these Russian names are impossible to remember. Tra-la-la. Did you hear that? It sounded like someone singing. Tra-la-la, lira, lira-lay. I did it the great detective way. This caroling. I know that lark-like voice. Well, never mind that now. This is a golden opportunity for us. Yes, you're right. We must seize it. Let's get inside. Yes, definitely. Before that stringy knot crewman comes back. Stroganoff, not stringy knot. So, but before we do that, actually, though, this guy's out here. Took me a while to figure out what to do after I'd searched the room. Oh, it's Mr. Sholmes. Look. Wow, you never know where he's going to turn up next, do you? He seems to be stealing a look at something as he sings to himself. I wonder what he's looking at. Tra-la-la, lira, lira, lay. I did it the great detective way. He's still singing. Do you think he hasn't noticed us? Or he's simply in extremely high spirits? Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when the yard bit off more than it could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, it's lucky Herlock was about. Excuse me. I solved it all, and I stood tall. I did it the great detective way. Mr. Sholmes! Ah! What is it? You want to fight? Honestly, interrupting a fellow when he's singing, and I was just about to reach the climactic finish. Sorry, I thought you were never going to stop, so I figured now is as good a time as any. I very nearly dropped you to the floor with one of my famous right hooks. Alright, I get the picture. Now, could you put those fists away? What form? Mr. Sholmes, you seem to be examining something before we interrupted you. Ah, yes, that. I was immersed in the study of the ship's log, as penned by the stockily built crewman who's usually on guard here. Oh, yes, the ship's log. And did you find anything useful from it? Well, after 2 a.m. this morning, the majority of the entries are blank. Which means that there was nothing to report. Nothing of note happened, so... you truly are a student from the land of the rising sun. You've been utterly blinded by it. Sorry? Your logic, my boy, is inverted. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? Observe the other pages, and all shall become clear. It would seem the same crewman oft saying sentry in the first-class passageway, and he has almost a religious practice of recording nothing to report every half hour. Oh, he writes that in every 30 minutes? Nothing to report. Precisely. But put simply, the seaman writes nothing to report when there is just that. And yet, the ship's log from last night is largely blank. He didn't even write nothing to report. Do you mean... It sure is sounding like everyone got drugged. Because, I mean, he can't write in it if he's unconscious now, can he? Yes, there were circumstances about last night which led to the seaman being absent from his post. What kind of circumstances? What happened? That remains a mystery for now, but we can be sure something significant took place. So significant that it caused the seaman to forget his regular habit of scribbling nothing to report in his logs, or he was literally unable to. These are important details. I would stake my life on it. You must log the ship's log in your mental file. Yes, I will tuck it away in my mind palace. Now that deduction was worthy of a great detective. Ah, you're starting to understand what my way is, I see. What makes Sholmes. Brilliance. Ah ha ha. Oh ho ho ho. Ha ha ha. Oh, ouch. What is it? Are you hurt? Oh, don't worry yourself. I seem to be afflicted with a throbbing head this morning for some reason. Nothing more. Yep, we've all been drugged, alright. Well, my friends, until our next encounter. He's still singing to himself. I can hear it as he wanders off. There's something wrong, Suzato-san. You seem lost in thought. It's just, well, I feel the same. Sorry. Ever since I woke up this morning, I've had something of a headache. A sort of continuous throbbing. Oh, you too? Alright, we're going in, boys. Oh, this was empty last time. Miss Pavlova isn't back yet. Suzato-san. Oh, where's she gone? Hey, what are you doing? Those are her private things. Yo, I mean, we're already invading her private space. What more can we do? There's not a moment to waste, Naruhodo-san. We must investigate as quickly as we can. I suppose you're right, for Cosmo's sake. Not just for Cosmo-sama. What do you mean? It can't be long now until we arrive at port in Hong Kong. I don't want you to be in those handcuffs when we get there. Really? We must solve this case, Naruhodo-san. By ourselves, if we have to. Yes, we will. Alright, let me see the bag. Really, can't look at the bag. No? Naruhodo-san, are you there? Sorry, I'm right here. Yes, why? Oh, good. I thought you might have climbed into the wardrobe when I wasn't looking. Oh, so there wasn't the bag. There's no place like home. Believe me, I don't have some strange compulsion to jump inside every wardrobe I see, you know. Well, anyway, I'm not sure anyone could fit inside this one. It's full of beautiful outfits, Beautiful outfits? They look like dressing gowns. Oh, well, this one's got sleeve buttons, though, so maybe not. It's full of beautiful outfits. I suppose they're all stage costumes. I was rather hoping we'd find Miss Pavlova's friend hiding in there, but no such luck. Alright, this boy? There's one of those next to Cosmo's bed, too. Yes, it's a bell cord. I can't resist. She barely hesitated there. She gave it a good tug, too. No, I didn't actually expect anyone to come. We don't want them to. We're trying to investigate in secret. These do seem quite useless. So this ventilator connects to Cosmo's cabin next door. Yes, although what a fool a shipbuilder must be to open a ventilator into another room. Ah, maybe. It's so that if there's a gas leak next door, the occupant of the cabin would notice and raise the alarm. So, one thing. First, what's leaking gas in the other room to begin with? And secondly, that just means this room is also full of gas, so they probably both die. Or the occupants of both cabins would die of gas poisoning. Yes, exactly. That is a possibility. And nothing in this room has gas. Anyway, last night Cosmo wrote that he saw a speckled band coming out of this ventilator. This cabin door has the same sort of same simple sort of bolted latch that our cabin has. Oops. If the bolt's drawn across, there's no way anybody could enter the cabin from outside. Yes, it's not a particularly heavy-duty bolt, is it? But still, it wouldn't slide across of its own accord, would it? No, and the door is made of metal, so there's no chance of trickery using magnets to unbolt it from the other side. And it seals up perfectly, too, to stop any seawater coming in, so you couldn't use the method you told me of passing a thread through a crack around the closed door, either. I seem to know a lot of tricks for opening doors. I'm starting to see why they suspect me. Ah, yes, they're displayed in this cabin, too. Look, the SS Bureau's rules of passage. You know, what I'm suddenly realizing is that it seems a little pointless to put the rules of passage in the ship's cabins, because you're already on the boat, so it's not like you can suddenly adhere to these practices if you didn't know they existed beforehand. Passengers must... Yeah. I suppose Miss Pavlova realized that she needed to keep the contents of her case a secret after she read this. Discord. Yeah. Alright, uh-huh. One moment. Okay. Her special friend, I mean. I wonder where her friend has disappeared to now. It's probably fun exploring the ship, I imagine. Having fun exploring the ship, I imagine. I just hope Seaman Stroganoff doesn't find it and throw it overboard. Oh, yes. So do I. All the books have toppled over together. Look, every single one. Do you think that's a god of the sea, perhaps? He's toppled too, though. It's exactly the same as the bookcase next door, in Cosmo's cabin. Yeah, so I'm guessing, like, Cat went between two rooms and just knocked everything over in both of them, you know, as cats do. Perhaps. Perhaps Miss Pavlova was practicing a difficult ballet pose and fell against the bookcase. I don't know, would she really be practicing ballet on the same night she ran away from her ballet company? That's a good point. Alright then, it must have been you. You lost your temper and knocked them over in a fit of rage. This isn't even my room. Not everything bad that happens on the ship is because of me, you know. Well, anyway, I'll set them straight again in here, too. I don't like seeing things in disarray. Delightful. Alright, the boy is gone. Oh my, Miss Pavlova's case is open. It's completely empty inside, but according to the great detective's great deduction, she was hiding her special friend in there. Yes, a friend that she had to keep secret, because you're not allowed to bring animals aboard the SS Burya. I wonder what kind of animal she had in there. And more to the point, where is it now? Oh. What's that? Yo, that's a fucking air raid siren, dog. Shut down the engines immediately. Vessel sighted a quarter-mile 4. Full stop. Hard to starboard. All hands. Brace for impact. What the... I think we're about to crash into another ship. What? I mean, it wasn't very ambiguous. I can't stand. Suzato-san, hold on. Suzato-san, are you alright? Are you injured? I think I'm fine, thank you. Oh, the fucking books are fucked up again. It looks like we avoided a collision. I think. Yes, the ship has come to a stop. Oh my goodness, what about you? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Hello? Is anybody in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like... Inspector Hosonaga. Is that you there? Unbolt the door. Oh, it's fucking bolted again. You don't need to actually, like, physically touch this to close it. What? The bolt. All the books are fucked up again as well. Look at that. The door. The door's bolted. Did you do that, Suzato-san? No, I didn't touch it. Well, that's strange. How did... And look at all the books. They're just as they were before. So, like, everybody was drugged. And then, whoever did the murdering must have, like, done an emergency stop so that they could bolt the door from the inside and frame Ryu for it, I guess. Which is a little over the top, if you ask me. I still feel like you could have just used rope. Naruhodo-san, aren't you going to open the door and let the inspector in? I'd better tidy this place up first. Why? Our violent emergency stop has solved one mystery, at least, in a very vivid way. But I knew that what had awaited us on the other side of the cabin door would not be pleasant. I hurried around tidying up the cabin with a new sense of foreboding in my heart. Oh, well, that was a very short segment. Nah, that's okay. I kind of already have one. Somehow, the door to the cabin we were in ended up bolted after we made an emergency stop. Suzato-san took a deep breath, and then gently slid back the bolt. You, what are you doing in Miss Pavlova's quarters? Ah, you both look unhurt. Good. Yes, we're fine, thank you. What on earth happened? We heard something about we were going to collide with another ship. Yes, it appears to have been a false report, though. Oh, how did that happen? There's a dense fog outside, so it's extremely difficult to see. Someone must have thought he saw a ship ahead. This person obviously triggered the alarm, and that's why we made an emergency stop. Everything is chaos. Passengers are screaming. Crew are running everywhere. This first-class area is the only quiet part of the ship at the moment. Oh, I see. Someone triggered the alarm. Does that mean that someone pressed that button outside? But, like, the person who pressed the button outside couldn't have yelled through this, surely, so why did they give such detailed descriptions of where the ship was? Ah! You wicked intruder, dressed all in black. You are the devil. Fucking relax. Jesus. Sorry, me? You can call a lot of things, but devil is a first. You opened my traveling case. Oh my god, she didn't take the pad out. How could you? What? No, we didn't touch it. That's right, Miss Pavlova. It was already open when we came into your cabin. Inspector. Yes? Arrest this man. I know he did it. He is a criminal. Is it not enough that he has killed a man? Da. And he is stowaway as well. If Vixen promises not to steal chicken, do you believe? Ugh. Take him away. He's a trespasser as well as everything else. Isn't that the same thing as being a stowaway, though? Stowing away, trespassing. Like, this is one crime, dog. These two things are combined. Killing, she is right. You are devil. It doesn't look good, does it? There's a cell below deck. Throw him in. Why didn't you put me in there to begin with? Tomorrow we dock in Hong Kong. Then we give you straight to police. Wait, a cell? Please, Inspector Hosonaga, is there nothing you can do? This is a Russian vessel. I really have no jurisdiction here. After my last effort to appeal to the captain's good nature, I think I'm out of options. This is terrible. This is a real crisis. I've got to find a solution. Immediately. So, it's this guy. Up to no good, as usual. What the? What are you doing up there? Mr. Sholmes! My man, looking fly as hell. Oh, yeah. Naturally, I was analyzing what a weight of 20,000 rubles feels like on one's head. Have I not told you that as a detective it is my business to know what other people do not? I don't think this actually weighs that much, dog. This isn't mere tomfoolery, my boy. Oh, no, no. Well, why were you hanging from that hook before, then? Isn't it obvious? To properly assess the weight of the 20,000 rubles, naturally. I wished to determine if it would bend that conceited-looking hook on the wall, so full of brag and bounce. My man's gonna fucking fight a hook. I never know whether to take this man seriously or not. Ah, you again, the great detective. Ah, Inspector, I confess I've been looking for you. I have something to report to you most urgently. Well, you might try looking for somewhere other than a hook on the wall next time. What is to report? Speak. An urgent report from a great detective can mean but one thing. Yes. The case of the curious murder that took place last night here on the vessel, the steamship Burya, has been solved. By me, naturally. It's about damn time. What? Really? Yes, I have eliminated all other possibilities. No other explanations exist. So, allow me to illuminate all your minds. For I am about to reveal my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. Ha! You have solved it. Everything, even Hedgehog understands this case. We all know who was responsible for killing Student Boy this morning when we found criminal in wardrobe. It is this stowaway, and he has handcuffs to prove it. I didn't do it. The trouble is, there doesn't appear to be anyone else who could have killed the victim, because as everyone knows, the cabin door is bolted shut from the inside. But dog, like, we know why now. I'm gonna have to sit through like 20 minutes of dialogue before somebody's like, oh, hold on, they could have just done that. That means the culprit must be who was inside the cabin. Yes, it's what's called a locked room mystery in detective studies. Da, locked room, that is point. The room was locked. Well, I can't deny that. There's no way the bolt could have drawn from outside the cabin. But it could, like, literally we just saw it though, dog. You're all quite mistaken. The cabin next door is not a so-called locked room at all. What? Oh yes, there is another entrance. An entrance used last night by the culprit in order to gain access to the cabin despite the bolted door. What other entrance? We never discovered one. Why, it gapes open-mouthed at you as we speak. The ventilator, ma'am. The ventilator. You think this is funny? I cannot even put my arm through that hole. That's because your arms are as thick as tree trunks. He's thick. You're suggesting that the culprit entered and left the victim's cabin through that tiny opening? It's not possible. Ah, but it is. And last night, the victim even witnessed the intruder in the act of passing through the ventilator. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Are you referring to the words Cosmo wrote in his diary? Yes, likely so. Precisely, my dear madame. But what does it mean? What is this speckled band? The answer to that particular conundrum is in this very cabin. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? There is a distinct element of danger, but fear not, I am ready. What I am about to expose for you all to see will shock you to your cores. Behold! Kia! Ah, what the... It was a snake, god damn it. Allow me to introduce you all to the band! The Speckled Band. A snack? Indubitably. Mr. Sholmes, just one thing. Pray, what troubles you? Well, the snack isn't really speckled, is it? I guess not. It looks more stripy, wouldn't you say? Yes, you're right. I think in this case you'd have to call it the Striped Band, wouldn't you? You both see and observe with distinction. However, do you not think that that is precisely the trap into which the culprit wishes you to fall? Oh, well... Like, the diary was forged? Because that guy wrote the message. Maybe they also wrote speckled instead of striped. It's a trap? How exactly? I think perhaps it is time I explained the intricacies of my train of thought. Are you ready, Miss Pavlova? I'm sorry for the young man who died, but that is all. His death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. There are two conclusions I have drawn from the facts. Number one, last night your friend infiltrated the victim's cabin. Ah. And number two, that same friend was responsible for the victim losing his life. No. She's turned as white as a bowl of rice again. Sholmes must be right. He's hit the nail on the head. This young woman's friend killed Mr. Asogi? I see, yes. It looks like he can't speak with a snake cord around his head. I would advise as little movement as possible, Seaman. You wouldn't want the fangs of that long friend in your neck. So everyone, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular, finally. The Great Deduction. Topic 1. Intruder's identity. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. His death is nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? Ah, as I suspected, another telltale glance. That's why his face is fucked up. Because there's fucking... The pattern was the same as the fucking snake. He's... Well... Wait a second, though. That means the snake's been on him before. Well, I did already kind of guess that he knew Miss Pavlova, but, I mean, whatever. Without doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see before us. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band, whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we give then, pray? What was the sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. You have the answer to your quandary, even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying, but failing to conceal. This can only be the snake's sloughed skin. So, that also doesn't look speckled, really, to me. But, secondarily, snakes don't, like, change their markings when they shed their skin, do they? Well, hold on a second. Do snakes change pattern when they molt? Is that the correct term? Makes a somewhat hazy appearance, but every snake is different. You should notice some sort of change in your snake's pattern. Oh, really? Oh, I'm seeing a few that say they can, so maybe, I don't know. Whatever. Nature's fucking weird, dude. Evidently, after the subtle and horrible crime, this deadly friend of yours shed its original skin. No, I don't know what you're talking about. Last night, through the ventilator visible in this cabin, your then speckled friend slithered next door. Using the bell cord on the other side of the bridge, the serpent silently descended into the victim's quarters. In the dim light, it appeared to the young man who was about to lose his life as a speckled band. In summary, the nature of this friend of yours, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a rare breed of snake whose markings change each time it sloughs its skin. A snake so dreadful we can only imagine it would be found in the deepest depths of India. Conclusion: a beloved speckled snake. Topic 2. How Mr. Asogi died. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data of which I have been appraised, it would appear there were no visible signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. So, we know that's not true. Secondarily, is a striped snake poisonous? Are striped snakes poisonous? I am terrible at spelling. With red and black stripes can range from that. Well, never mind. I don't fucking know. Nature's fucking weird, dude. So, but, we know it wasn't poison. But I guess if, the snake, like, tightened around your neck enough to break it, I guess that wouldn't leave, like, a mark as if it had been hit with something. But then also, no, because you get strangle marks, don't you? If, like, somebody gets choked to death. Maybe not. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be? Yes, an examination of the deceased body will prove the cause of death. So I kind of want to skip through this because the very first point has rendered the rest of this irrelevant. Because the very beginning premise is wrong. The almost, but not quite, imperceptible puncture wounds left by its venomous fangs will seal the truth. Yes, the vestiges of the snake bite delivered to by your terrifying friend. This makes no sense. I agree. There is no point feigning ignorance. After the incident, you endeavored to hide everything, didn't you? But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place of you choose. That's right, you hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. Would a snack make the case bounce, really, though? When we first met in this cabin, it came to my attention that your case moved periodically. Your serpent assassin was restless inside, no doubt. You don't... It is telling that the victim made note of a low whistling sound that he heard minutes before the end. This was your signal, was it not? The sound you had used to train your serpent friend. To train? Indeed, you put the serpent through this ventilator and wait. After a period, you summon it back with a whistle. You couldn't know if the animal had done its duty, so you would listen for signs of life next door. If the victim appeared not to have been dispatched, you'd release the snake once more. Do you deny the snake has undergone such training? It's not true. Having slithered through the ventilator and down the bell cord, the creature needed only to sink its fangs in once. And the venom would course through the victim's veins, ending his existence forever. That is the true nature of the Speckled Band that took the poor young man's life. There can be no doubt my logic is infallible. Your beginning premise on topic 2 was wrong. So by extension, every other point was also wrong. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of the Speckled Band. Miss Pavlova has trained her pet snake as a killing machine. There on the floor you will observe a saucer of milk. The promise of food is the key to training any creature. Do snakes drink milk? Let's see. When snakes are kept starved for days and offered milk, they do drink to keep them hydrated. Oh, no, but then... No, snakes do not drink milk, but they will if there's no choice. I mean, fair enough. Incredible! You've solved the mystery. Amazing. Your great deduction really lives up to its name. You should literally know this is wrong. I see now why Sherlock Holmes has become such a household name. You told us the guy's cause of death. My dear man, it was nothing remarkable. As the Russians say, I could have done it with one left hand. Could I venture an opinion, Mr. Sholmes? But of course, what's on your mind? It's just about your deductions before. Some things don't quite make sense to me. I welcome questions as to my method. And answers will answer both loudly and proudly. Oh, well, good. First of all, snecks are egg-laying creatures, part of the reptile family. You are well informed, madam. And reptiles, don't drink milk. Ah! It's really only mammals that like to drink milk, you see. So, I'm not sure it would be possible to train a sneck using milk as a reward. No matter, no doubt Miss Pavlova used some other treat to encourage her pet to do her bidding. Why, also, like, why has she trained a snake to do this? Milk was merely an example, the logic holds. Well, there is something else. Snecks have no ears. Ah. Yes, I'm not sure it would really be possible to signal a snake by whistling. But madam, what of the tales from Arabia? Have you not heard of the snakes that dance to the sounds of a flute? I think perhaps the performers play their music in time with the snake's natural movements. Yeah, that's a visual thing, right? It guides them more with it. Oh, I see. No hands, no feet, no ears? These creatures are so inept as to be practically useless. Yeah, fuck reptiles. Don't take it out on the snacks. There is one other thing. You have more? Snakes use the scales on their bellies to propel themselves. So, I'm not really sure that a snake could manage to climb up a flat bell cord like the one in these cabins. Then it should try harder. Please, don't be angry with me, Mr. Sholmes. The point is, even if the snake had gone through the ventilator to the next door cabin, it couldn't have come back without help. Well, someone obviously went in there, though, because the crime scene was tampered with. What I'm trying to say is that there are a number of reasons why it's difficult to imagine the snake could have had a part in this. Damn. I still think the snake was in on it, just, you know, someone brought it out of the room again afterwards. I think we need to step in and help again, Miss Naruhodo. Oh no, you don't mean. Yes, we need to modify Sholmes' latest deductions and turn them into the great ones they ought to be. I had a feeling that was coming. Alright, let's give it a try. Just what I was waiting for. Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, right. So, cast your eyes downwards to your wrists again. What? I mean, yeah, you know. You've done it again. Your handcuffs are gone. Where did they go? Fear not, I shall see they're restored after our work is done. I really wish you'd leave them off. Now, everyone, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. His death is nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, the aching heart smarts with pain. She does have a pained expression on her face. Yes, that's true. She looks as though Kazuma-sama's death is weighing heavily on her mind. But you're not sure Mr. Sholmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Could there be some other way to interpret it? Let's take a moment and really look close. Look, there. The scratches. So, also, snakes don't scratch. Or at least not like that anyway, definitely. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, that claw scratch smarts with pain. Indeed, and simple observation reveals that the wound is fresh. Miss Pavlova, did you in fact receive that scratch sometime last night? Ah. When I think about the young man who died next door, I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse. Ah, and that it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what was the nature of this intruder? Why, naturally, it was your friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? Ah, as I suspected. Without doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent. It seems likely the scratch on the back of her hand was made by this friend of hers, doesn't it? Except, snakes don't have claws, do they? No, they don't. They don't even have hands or feet on which claws might grow. Well, then, if that snake isn't her pet, what is? What's the true identity? We should follow her gaze. Shazam, it's a cat. And behold, the bell. Ah, look at the photograph of this frame. This must be something. I hope the cat hasn't been eaten by the snake. Because the case was open and apparently there was a snake loose in this room. This must be something Miss Pavlova brought with her. She is exceptionally beautiful, isn't she? Yes, that's true, but personally... Isn't she like 15? Please do not talk like this. It's the little black creature she's holding that's caught my eye. Maybe we'd better take a closer look at this. Yes, I wish to point to the little kitten. Without doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Yes, the scratch on the back of your hand makes that abundantly clear. Oh no. The whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear, but what is clear, God, I hope it's okay, is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? Darka is my best friend. I couldn't leave her behind. Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. It's a cat toy. Whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was the sight that fell upon the victim's eyes? No, don't look at me. Ah, yes, behind your back. The sloughed skin, nay. Did you see that? She just took something out of her pocket and hid it behind her back. If she just left it in her pocket, no one would have ever known. Oh yes, ploys like that are what Mr. Sholmes' specialty. He's ever so cleverly forced her to reveal something. And I thought deduction was his specialty. Or maybe that was a ploy as well. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that's the snake of a skin. In which case, just what is she hiding behind her back? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Well, it's speckled and it's a band, but what is it? Like a large piece of cloth, and there's a handle at one end. I think it may be a cat's toy. This is sort of common in the West, apparently. How is that a toy for cats? Cats like to chase the band around and paw at it. Kittens in particular love that sort of play. You only need to wave it in front of them and they pounce to catch it. That sounds positively adorable. Slam that bad boy down. Maybe it wasn't the snake, then. Yes, the thing you are trying, but failing to conceal, is a cat's toy. Precisely the true nature of the now infamous Speckled Band. Ah. And it was this toy that you dangled through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume. Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it. But why? For what reason? My dear boy, there can only be one answer. Hold on, question. So the cat climbed up the bell cord, correct? Why are the bell cords not covered in scratch marks? I guess that would have given it away too quickly. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use the speckled cat's toy to incite the creature to return. Ah. In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Darka. Kya. A truly troublesome feline young Darka is proving to be. She must be caged once found. You will forgive us for borrowing the photograph of your pet, Miss Pavlova. Where is the cat, though? Is the cat okay? It was after I gave her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared through the ventilator. Darka, she is so naughty. A beloved kitten. Solved. How Mr. Asogi died. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? Yeah, poison, fucking wrong, let's go, you know, come on. Terrible venom. What Mr. Sholmes says is true, there were no signs of a wound anywhere on Cosma's body. That's right, but Mr. Sholmes seems to be unaware of one important detail. Cosma wasn't poisoned. Yes, it would seem so. Let's give him the information. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the postmortem report. Ah, yes, I knew it was one or the other. Of course, I had covered my bases. I knew it. His neck was... Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Seaman Stroganov isn't some immortal freak, you know. The jury is out. Anyway, we have on good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be? Yes, the deceased body. Incorrect. Cosma died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something or someone. Yes, that's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found, though. Presumably Darka didn't silently creep up behind Cosma and deal him a fatal blow. I suppose it's possible that he'd have fallen and hit the ground awkwardly. It could have been a terrible act of misfortune that broke his neck by accident. Oh yes, a bad fall could explain it. Really, though? It's rather hard to believe of Cosma-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man. That would be an anticlimactic way to go. Well, we need to fix this deduction somehow. Yes, it's the, I did wonder about this one for a little while, but they wanted me to show the mark, more because of the bell. Yes, an examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. This particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim's body, is a deposit of shoe polish. Shoe polish? Indeed, positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I now carry as a matter of course. Oh. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asogi's laced leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it is not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asogi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. And I still kind of feel like he would have been dragged by that mark, but... And by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some immovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, he lost his life. No. I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? Is my man wearing 3 tops? Because there's this black top, the white inner part, and then he's also got this other dark thing on underneath that. Is he wearing like 3 shirts? My man must be hot as hell. What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asogi lied? Yes, the facts are clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. Yo, this part made me mad. That's right, the traveling case. So I'm gonna show you why. I don't believe it. Kazuma-sama merely tripped over and now he's no more. It can't be true. I refuse to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but the marks on the floor does seem to suggest that's what happened. But if that's part of Mrs. Sholmes' deduction is right, Miss Pavlova trying to hide some evidence that would prove it, here in this cabin, somewhere in the direction she just cast her eyes. Where, I wonder? Let's have a look. So, I saw this trash can and went, trash can. And it's like, nope, you fucking idiot. What are you talking about? How could it possibly be in the wastebasket, huh? Yeah. But then... Yeah, I know. Yes, thank you. But then, you look in the waste paper basket. But Miss Pavlova only started occupying this last night. Presumably there's not much rubbish in there. There's the fucking bell. So, it is the waste paper basket, actually. What's that? It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it? Yes, it is. And I feel like I've seen it. Yep. So then you present the basket. And it's like, yeah, you got it. Easy. Motherfucker, how dare you? That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that waste paper basket. Here we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact. Precisely. We found another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Asogi's cabin. And, as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly. Oh no. So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why would it be that part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin? Kya. You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not? I don't know. In that hushed accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell. What? Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. The evidence. Which, to be honest, I'm a little insulted that it had to ask me for. Yes! If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from Darker's collar, the very glass bell in question. The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall. And the cause of that fateful stumble. Your absent feline friend, Darka. Man, really though? I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry. Death by tripping over a cat. Really though? Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. She was so fast, she disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her. And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it. We have talked about this. Yes, and I had to read the rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. And yet this ship appears to be covered in animals. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping. So at that point, you thought it was safe to lure the kitten back, by dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator into the adjoining cabin. Darka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So the faint whistling was also her. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Cosmo was. From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. The SS Brirya is a large vessel, and even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards? In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. Hold the fuck on, though. Then why is my man's body been posed if you didn't go in the room to get her back? Yet Darka is nowhere to be seen. Yes, I would like to know if the cat is okay, thank you. I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she's disappeared again. Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself, at least. When I woke up this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died, but I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. Nah, you ain't telling us everything, dog. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snack? You're right, where is it? If the snack isn't your friend, then whose is it and where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature? Oh, it's his. Oh, I didn't say. Snack is my friend. His name is... Perjuko. What? What? That Snack belongs to you? He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here. Yes, how did that Snack get into this cabin? But, animals are not permitted on board. Ha, we are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend, without someone who understands. Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake? Surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Perjuko does not have venom. He is harmless, very long, but very gentle. He is adorable, like Granny. It's venomless? Yes, now he is hungry, so he is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile. Well, at least if he's hungry, he probably didn't eat the cat. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? We just talked about this. Like they say milk chickens? What? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Perjuko eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses. Oh, so is that what the mousetrap in the passageway is for? Of course. How else I catch my friend's favorite food? Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. My man's not happy. It refuses to drink milk, it can't hear a whistle, it can't climb a bell cord, and it's not even venomous. How the deuce can something so inept land a starring role? Is not my fault, I do not make up stories. My Perjuko has nothing to do with this incident. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my... Nah, like, someone went in that room. Lads, this isn't it. Miss Pavlova. I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But, what are you talking about? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. Nay. It was just a series of unfortunate events, an accident. I'm no great detective like Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth, but even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh? I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Ah, not again. Especially as they're on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours, was he not? Yes. Cosmo was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy. If I can chase that down, the truth will be revealed. Oh, there's a star on the back of the uniform. The truth about how you really died, about how that seat in your cabin really came to be. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes. What should we ponder first? Is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside? Was this truly an unfortunate accident, or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. Well, we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that climbed through the ventilator. Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction. The evidence is right there in Cosmo's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't have possibly been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand. Time to present the evidence. Shazam. Yes. The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. That script, it's Russian, isn't it? Indeed, it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a message in their native language, Japanese in this case. My man died instantly because his neck got broken. He's not writing a message. Maybe he was studying Russian. It's a simple language. That's not true. I tried to learn Russian once. He could have picked it up very fast. That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry, what do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor, and the reason why is clearly explained here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant death. Ah! Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't have possibly written anything, because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that tells us that couldn't have possibly been there if what Miss Pavlova said was true. Yes, it's the other half of the bell. There's something else that gives the truth away. It's... Yes! This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. That's the glass bell that the kitten had around its neck. We already knew all about that. It was broken in half on the victim. Yeah, but only half of it was in there, dog. Unfortunately, there is a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. What? If that's really what happened, then how did half of the bell end up back here? Ah! Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. that when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Kya. Yes, there was something else present in Mistress. You're wasting time. Someone else was there? Da, of course, we know this. What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out. Oh, yes. Except we know that it could have been locked. Also, if it was me, why is half the bell over here again? It's true, I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian, there's no way I could have left that message. Not would have, there's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. Yeah, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. It's still pretty big, though. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor. Little wonder, then, that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? Seaman Stroganoff. Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and went away to join ballet. But before, she was dancer on this ship, member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal. Ah, so that's it. You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is almost interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure? You are a great detective, you should know. Except it could be locked from the outside, though, couldn't it? Nobody could go into a cabin, not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Yet, it's impossible. No, he's not right. You literally know why. I've read about this in detective stories. People often talk... No, we talked about this as well. Thread? Are you stupid? Yes, these are bulkheads. They're airtight, not getting in. Watertight doors, so no one would expect to find anyone on anyone's steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight, no threads or needles or magnets could have been used. But if you tilt the ship, but Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so how could you shift it onto me like that? The cabin door couldn't have been bolted from the outside. Not necessarily. What? I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? Yes, I do. One way springs to mind, yes. Do you really know? Yes, and so should you, because we've seen it happen. Indeed we have, so would you care to do the honors? Behold, the bookcase. Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what's known as inertia acting on the objects. Is there nothing she doesn't know? Or that's not in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship had made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello? Is anybody in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like... Inspector. Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped, suddenly the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asogi was killed... Easy peasy. The SS Burya made another emergency stop. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hands across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? Then, when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asogi's cabin. Oh my. Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Burya made an emergency stop? It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm? Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you to only press it in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of the lookout alone, hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow the crewman to raise the alarm. That sort of button is one almost is compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Wait, it was you? When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interest of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. So it doesn't actually need to have even been, like, a member of the crew if they could do it with the button and not, like, gone up to the bridge. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed. And whatever the occasion. He sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with ship? I report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now. Now, I'm sure that can all wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learnt a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin doors slide closed. So, what we must now consider... Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did this ship make an emergency stop, or did it not? You are idiots. Burya is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make even an emergency stop, even in middle of night, there would be chaos. We were all drugged, though. What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Well... It's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Really? What evidence? Fascinating. Do show us, my good man. Proves that the emergency some emergency gripped the vessel. It's the logs. Seaman Stroganov. It's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right? That is correct. Why? And the ship's log here, this would be where you record the details of your duties. What are you doing with that? That is mine. You rather carelessly left it atop that little makeshift bureau in the passage out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later. I left it there on purpose, that is where I always put it. The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances you write the set phrase, nothing to report, every 30 minutes. But from 2 last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing? That is... not because nothing happened. But if nothing happens, you normally write nothing to report, wouldn't you? Gulp. Indeed, so... which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Burya. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting that the ship did make an emergency stop? Stop talking rubbish! If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh, why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really happened, surely all of us would have noticed. Nah, we all were drugged though, dog. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship blurred so violently and the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night. Well, no, that's a good point. Nah, but like, though... What of the throbbing? Oh, thank God. Sorry, what do you mean? Your head, ma'am. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it. Ah. Oh, yes, I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Oh, this also would explain why Ryu was still asleep when they found him. Because Kazuma gave him his leftovers, he would have eaten way later than everybody else. So he was unconscious, like out of sync with everybody. That's why he was still asleep at the start. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right, my head's been throbbing today too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. I can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed inside the wardrobe. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. I'd already been dragged out of the wardrobe, and had put these handcuffs on me at some point. Why didn't I wake up when all of that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yeah, sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Ah, well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken that was served yesterday, I take it? Yes, in fact, I had all of that. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken? That's right, he didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. No, really? Is that true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific, designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug? Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Sholmes means. That's a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. Jesus Christ. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, Seaman? Eh? I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. Uh-oh, we're getting him. He's getting got. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made to the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself would be hauled over the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade. Please, no more. I will tell everything. Eh? I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help, everyone together. We threw away everything, her fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel. I don't believe it. You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. Da, we could not make all drug. How do you say? Dissolve. Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat. While all the passengers of the SS Burya slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion that their evening meals had contained. So if that's what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who disliked chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop to trick lock Kazuma's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Well, no, because it was like the middle of the night. They were probably already in their cabins. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Of course, just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the drug. Quite, and accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Yes. The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway, and not one of them would find it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary... Oh, whoops, went too fast. Hold on. And not one of them... Yeah. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of the strange of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. You have talked long and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night. But... I don't know about any of this. I am just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories we don't believe. Sailors like me, we only trust what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait. What? I am quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? Do you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind? What's accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man, but you can't hear such a call with your ears, no. You must hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come. For one final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth. So, Mr. Naruhodo, your assistance, if you please. With what exactly, Sholmes? With observation, my dear fellow, just as I said, of these two provocators. Observation. If you remember, Miss Naruhodo, we now know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene. What we're looking for is some trace of evidence that one of these two was there. Precisely. You're delightfully quick to grasp my meaning. Alright, I'll see what I can find. This actually took me a minute to find. Because you have to angle like so. It's there, though.
Yes!
Seaman Stroganov, you seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there. Eh. Ah, yes, I don't know where the dirt came from. So, nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain. One moment, I am sipping. My throat is very dry after talking for nearly 2 hours. What are you trying to say? It would appear the significance of this stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Allow us to make it plain. It's a very large purple stain on Stroganov's uniform. I think what made it is clear. Indeed it is. So Mr. Naruhodo, present the evidence that proves it. This one also kind of puzzled me for a minute because we never logged the ink itself as evidence, so you have to use the photo. Whoa, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, thank you.
Yes!
Yes, it's this photograph, and the ink it shows what caused the stain on your uniform. Ink. A rather unusual color of ink. Purple. Ah, the penny drops. At last, now you see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body was written in purple ink. And the stain on the back of the uniform is the ink of the exact same color. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't have possibly stained your uniform in that way. Which means you must have been present in the cabin in the moments immediately after the ink was spilt. All right. Yes. It was me. I did it. Everything. You killed him? I arranged everything in dead student's cabin to make it look like Wardrobe Man did it. Then I pressed button to make Burya do emergency stop and bolt cabin door shut. I did everything so no one would suspect our angel. Biff, please. Don't worry, Angel. Let me do talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty, patrolling passageways. Then our angel came to me. She was white like sheet. Biff, please, you have to help me. I went with her. The door to cabin 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw student boy on floor. What? What happened here? Please, don't tell anyone. Yeah, what I'm just realizing this particular moment is if they really wanted to cover up this dead body, why didn't they just throw him overboard? Then there'd be, like, no reason to tinker with the scene at all. They just wouldn't find Kazuma, and it could easily be brushed off as him falling overboard. Whatever, anyway. It would be a lot harder to prove who did it if we didn't have a body, you know? Everything that happened in cabin is like Angel told you. The kitten escaped through the ventilator into Asogi's cabin, then he tripped over and broke his neck when he fell to the floor. Yes, that is right. So after the incident when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers, only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor. She said she was worried when she heard sound of someone falling on floor. That's when she went to look. No Angel. The door was not locked, so she opened to look, and you already know what happened after. Just one thing, if you wouldn't mind. What? When you went to Mr. Asogi's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead? Why? I already told you. When Nina opened door of student's cabin and looked inside, I was asking Miss Pavlova. Well, Miss Pavlova? Da? Oh. Yes, that is right. I saw him. It was dark, and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared. I understand, and I believe you. So is that finally it? Have we discovered the real truth? Ah, something very nearly slipped my mind. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. This photograph... Yes, I took this myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck, therefore the victim died instantly. And the unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten on which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, there is one particular area in this photograph that seems to me somewhat unnatural. What do you mean, unnatural? What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, well. If Kazuma tripped and fell. Which part of this seems unnatural? This took me a minute where I was like, I don't know. Like this hand because it's posed like that? No, because we already know Biff did that. And then eventually what I realized, this hand's closed tight. But if you fall over, you open your palms to try and catch yourself.
Yes!
Alright, if he really fell due to an unfortunate accident, then this fist just doesn't seem quite right. The exact same thought occurred to me. In a fall, one's instinct is to open the palms flat. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled. Sorry. Balled into a fist. That almost, you might say, as though he were gripping something. What do you mean? Simply that I took the liberty of investigating the victim's fist a short while ago. You did. And what, pray, do you imagine I found, my dear fellow? Mr. Sholmes, show us, please. Why, of course, my dear. Why would I keep you in suspense? It's her earring. This is what I found. Oh, a crescent moon with a little gemstone. Yes, you're right, a crescent moon. It's very pretty, but what does that tell us? It tells us nothing. I'm not sure. That crescent moon looks familiar. Observation, Mr. Naruhodo. That is the key. What? The truth is now tantalizingly close. How did that crescent moon come to be in Kazuma's clenched fist? This is the final clue. Ask yourself, what significance does it have? And observe. So I actually felt really upset with myself after I found this, because I had noticed earlier that she had this metal band around her ear. Like the first time when we were looking for the stain on Biff, I had noticed this band on her earring, but I assumed that was just like what the earring looked like. I didn't realize that there was another one on her other ear. So I was upset I didn't notice this part sooner.
Yes!
Miss Pavlova, I noticed it on your ear. Even though you have a metal earring, the decorative part appears to be missing. The little link holding it must have broken, I suppose.
Eh? What?
But looking at your other ear, I notice a crescent moon. Ah!
I don't believe it.
Now, the missing crescent moon was found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly, there is only one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. Miss Pavlova. Mr. Pavlova. Mr. Asogi must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear, perhaps just moments before he fell to the floor. In other words, last night, in Mr. Asogi's cabin, you witnessed the moment the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, you were quite literally at arm's length. But then the question is, why did Mr. Asogi do that? Why did he pull your earring from your ear and hold it in his clenched fist during his final moments? Oh no.
Angel.
No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavlova. Did I do it again? Tell the truth last night. What did you do to Kazuma? Ah. We did it. Fatal blow. When I think about everything that happened yesterday, it was too much. Running away, the fishing boat in the middle of the night, trying to climb onto this huge ship. And then, when I was at last in this cabin and I could relax after this horrible long day. Darka, wait. This really does suck as a story, doesn't it? I couldn't believe it when she disappeared through the ventilator. I tried to call her with a little whistle. I tried waving her favorite toy, but nothing worked. Darka would not come back. What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were a friend of mine. The young man from your country, he was very polite and kind. He helped me find Darka, and he promised not to tell anyone. But then, when I had my friend in my arms again and I was going to leave... Just a moment. Sorry, but... Oh, yes? I'm sure I know your face. I've seen you somewhere. Ah, of course, you're Nikolina Pavlova, aren't you? The Russian ballerina. Huh? No, I don't know that name. My heart nearly stopped when he said that. He knew who I was. How could this man from a land in faraway east know a Russian ballerina? Yes, I saw your performance in Japan. The beauty of the ballet made a deep impression on me. But what are you doing on this ship? I'm sure I read that your ballet company was performing in Shanghai at the moment. I can't fool him. I have to tell him the truth and hope he doesn't tell anyone. I have no other choice. I see. So you've run away. Please, please keep my secret. Don't tell anyone. Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here. He's going to pull that cord. He's going to tell the captain. Question. You know the captain. Why would it matter if he told the captain? Why did I think I could trust him? Then it happened. Everything at once. It was only a second, but it felt like forever. Also, he was definitely not going to ring the bell. He was going to open the wardrobe and ask Ryu. But why would it matter if he told the captain anyway? Wait, I shouted, and then Darka jumped out of my arms and down to the young man's feet. And as he turned around to look at me, I pushed him. I don't even know why. I don't know why I did it. I was just so scared. And I had to stop him from telling anyone about me. And that's when you went to fetch help? From Seaman Stroganov, who was on duty in the passageway. I heard Nina cry out and thud on the floor, so I ran to her. She was standing at cabin door, shaking like leaf. She looked at me and said, "Help me, Biff. If they find out, I will be... Please, I have nowhere to go." So you decided to help, and that's when you arranged things in Cosmo's cabin to make it look like I did it, so that no one would suspect the passenger in the cabin next door. Yes, I went into cabin and I looked around to make sure there was nothing to show Nina was there, and then I found Stowaway, in wardrobe, still sleeping. Right, that's when he found me. So you worked out a plan to lay the blame on the Stowaway. I closed wardrobe doors and put strange paper sign back. Luckily for me, that's the only reason Suzato-san started to believe me. I dragged young man's body to a good place and used ink that was spilling to write on floor. I wrote bleh, so that person who found him would look inside the wardrobe and find Stowaway. And tell me, what of the glass bell? It was by my feet, so I picked it up. I see. But it was dark inside the cabin. I didn't notice the other half. Then Angel went back to her cabin, and I finished job by pressing the emergency button in the passageway. Yes. Accordingly, the SS Burya did indeed come to an emergency halt at a little after 2 a.m., thus enticing the bolt on the cabin door to slide shut, creating the locked room mystery. There's still one thing I don't understand, Miss Pavlova. What? Well, you said that you told Cosmo about the fact you'd run away from your homeland, and it's because you were worried he was going to tell the captain that he pushed you. Isn't that right? Yes. But even if he had pulled the cord and called for the captain, aren't you friends with every member of the crew? Why would that have been a problem? It was what he first said that made me scared. What he first said. What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh. I'm sorry, I thought you were a friend of mine. But, like, you explicitly said when you were recounting Oh, he's going to ring the bell. You said he's going to ring the bell, he's going to call the captain. But you were worried about the inspector? You specifically named the captain. Yes, meaning me, who was supposed to be acting as his bodyguard. I thought if the police knew about me, they would arrest me. So before he could pull the bell cord, May I stop you a moment, please, Miss Pavlova? It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, was Mr. Asogi really going to pull the bell cord? I don't know. What? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I'm not Kazuma, so I can't know for certain, but... He was a man of his word. If he told you he wouldn't give your secret away, then he wouldn't have done. No, he was walking over to it. No, he was going to open the wardrobe. He was going to make them send me back. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, the day's work is not done yet, it seems. There is one more deduction to make. What? What other deduction? Yes, what action was the victim really about to take? Can we determine whether the young man's gaze, whither the young man's gaze was directed? First, consider the victim's location within his cabin. That's easy, I remember every detail. I mean, yes, I spent a lot of time in the wardrobe, but still. That cabin has been my home for this entire voyage. So this is how the cabin looked last night when Miss Pavlova visited Kazuma-sama. Yes, it's exactly how it was. Are you ready then? Yes. You see, a simple gaze can reveal all manner of truths, and not only that, in order to draw the right conclusion, you can't afford to be out even a little when you're following the gaze to where it lands. So when he turned away from Miss Pavlova, what was Kazuma looking at? Big swing. Considering everything that had happened last night, certainly it may have looked as though Kazuma was going to ring the bell cord. Yes, however... What is directly beside the bell cord? The wardrobe. The wardrobe? And more importantly, what was inside the wardrobe? The man's great friend sleeping soundly. Ah. Miss Pavlova, please think back very carefully. What were Mr. Asogi's exact words? Give me a moment, I could use another opinion here. Another opinion. Yes, but not from a member of the crew. No, Mr. Asogi intended to consult his close friend on the matter. To see if between them they might be able to help in some way, no doubt. Oh, no. Yeah, it's about as tragic as it can get. Sadly, we can't know the truth for certain now, it's too late for that, but I wish you had made sure of what Mr. Asogi was looking at. Things may have ended differently if you had. Miss Pavlova, I want to thank you for finally admitting the truth, but unfortunately, the truth is, a man lost his life because of what you did, and that will never change. I hope you'll never forget that. I'm sorry. Really, I'm so sorry. What have I done? And so, at long last, the mystery surrounding the tragic accident on the SS Burya was finally laid to rest. What will happen to Miss Pavlova now, then? Once we reach Great Britain, she'll be handed over to the British police at Scotland Yard. What about the fact she ran away from Russia? Won't the Russians try to repatriate her? Apparently, the English detective can speak to the immigration office and sort all that out. Mr. Sholmes can do that. So she won't be going back to Russia, then. No, I don't think so. Even if she wanted to return in the future, I doubt she would be able to. Hold on, your wounds healed fucking fast. She ran away, so she's now in exile for life. I see. I'm sorry. Seaman Stroganoff. I wanted to help our angel, no matter what. But I didn't think about you, about how you lost good friend. I will go with Nina. I will give myself to British police. That's kind of you. In the meantime, thank you for letting me go free again. Cosma's death feels like such a waste, but... well, do what you can for Miss Pavlova, won't you? Duh. To be perfectly honest, I don't think that she deserves to be punished at all, really. It sucks it happened, but she had a perfectly legitimate reason for what she did, even if, you know, if he told the captain, who would have cared. But at the same time, she was under a lot of stress, so, I mean, you know, I think it's fair enough, to be honest. Well, I'm afraid you need to pack now. We're due to arrive in Hong Kong tomorrow. As much as it pains me, I'm going to have to hand you over to the consul to arrange your passage back to Japan. Yes, I did stow away after all. I couldn't really expect any different. So, you should go back to your cabin now. Well, now how are we going to get to England? It looks like my study tour to Great Britain is over before it's even begun, then. To think that only days ago, Cosima and I were laughing together about how we'd tear up the streets of London. That seems like a distant memory now. Oh, what's that? Is it someone weeping? Suzato-san? Naruhodo-san, I didn't know you were here. Oh, well, I haven't been back long. Inspector Hosonaga just told me I should pack, you know, ready to leave the ship tomorrow and all that. I still can't believe this has happened. I can't believe someone's life can be over just like that. Susato-san. He had such grand ideas for his visit to Great Britain, so many dreams, and now they've all been cruelly taken away, just as he has. I thought I could never forgive the person responsible, but now we know the truth, that it was just an accident, just a silly series of mishaps. It's too much, Naruhodo-san, it's just too much. We never found the cat. Yes, I know. I wish there was something I could say. Inspector, my duty was to see Asogi-san to safely to Great Britain, but I failed, and caused his two closest friends great pain and suffering as a result. I've let everyone down. It's not your fault, dog. Get over it. I will do anything to make up for my terrible blunder. Nobody blames you, Inspector. And I'm at least... Huh? Surprised, Mr. Naruhodo? What is the meaning of this? Oh, a trifling matter. Simply that in my head I shall always picture you wearing those shackles. Without them, the balance seems all wrong. It's distracting. Sorry? So I decided to restore them, for old time's sake, shall we say. You are a stowaway, after all. He thinks this is funny. Mr. Sholmes. We do appreciate all your assistance. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not at all, not at all. And even though it's a little late, may I offer my sincere condolences. The loss of your companion is truly heartrending. I hope that you will be able to fulfill some of his aspirations in his honor. I'm afraid that won't be possible. We shall be disembarking at the next port in Hong Kong. We have to return to Japan and make a full report about everything that's happened. What? Wait a minute. It's just me that has to go back, isn't it? I mean, I was the stowaway. The terms of the study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in Great Britain and Japan. It was to be one lawyer and one assistant. We'll just have to tell him we're the lawyer. Was to be. In light of Mr. Asogi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead. Oh no, I don't care for me, but... Poor Susato-san. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is one lawyer and the study tour can continue, no? But is there anyone with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes? We know of no other lawyer. Qualifications, you say? Any qualifications obtained in your own country will be of little value in Great Britain, I'm afraid. Oh, but anyway, the voyage to London still promises a good month of time. An ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. Yes. Miss Suzato? Yes. Do you think perhaps I might be able to do it? Ah, but you're not a lawyer, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, unless... Are you studying law? No, I'm not, but... I'm sorry, in that case, I don't think there's even a chance it could work. But as I said, there is still more than a month before we reach England's shores. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I have a month in which to study, to learn what I must to become a lawyer in Great Britain. Mr. Naruhodo, that's ridiculous. Are you seriously just suggesting anybody could learn all of that in just 40 days? There's only one way to find out. I would work my fingers to the bone, Inspector, every single day. Will you let me try? And if by the time we reach Great Britain I haven't learned enough to be recognized as a lawyer, I'll take whatever punishment is deemed appropriate. But why put yourself in such a difficult position? For Kazuma, he said that there was something he had to do in Great Britain, and that he would sacrifice anything to make it happen. He was passionate about it. I can't let all that passion just come to nothing. And anyway, it's for my own benefit too. I will become a lawyer. I have to. What do you say, Miss Suzato? I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you. So, what does our bespectacled inspector friend say? Are you serious? One lawyer and one assistant. The numbers are indisputable. No, it's madness. Yet fascinating, wouldn't you agree? Fascinating? Duty and rules are the dull routine of existence that we all abhor. Give us interest, give us fascination. Speak for yourself. Besides, qualifications are no measure of a man. What matters is his character, no? And you've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary character today with your own eyes, from the early hours of this morning until this very moment now. Despite contending with the passing of his close companion, and despite the accusation of guilt, this man has shown resourcefulness, intelligence, and above all, courage. Very well. I'll think of a clever way to word my report to the Department of Justice. Inspector! After all, I did just make a promise, didn't I? I said I'd do anything at all to make up for my shortcomings here. Oh, thank you, Inspector. If you'll excuse me, I must pay a visit to the captain's quarters, I think. I need to discuss what to do next and how best to make my report. Are you really prepared to attempt this, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I'm going to try. I wonder, would you consider teaching me what I need to know? Everything about being a lawyer? I would be delighted to help. I am a judicial assistant after all. Thank you. And, Mr. Naruhodo, I'd like you to take charge of this. What? Me? Are you sure? I'm sure it's what Kazuma-sama would have wanted. Its name is Kuruma. It's a great sword that's been in the Yosogi clan for generations. Very well, I accept. I'll treasure it always. So then, Mr. Sato, it seems we'll be working together for some time yet to come. It will be an honor, Mr. Naruhodo. And for the next 40 days, I shan't give you a single minute of freedom. We shall fill every spare minute with study. Yes, that's exactly what I need. But, before we begin, I have an earnest favor to ask of you, too. Goodness, what is it? please throw me to the ground. Hey, whoa, let's slow down a little there, Chief. We don't know each other that well yet. 3 times. I should have never doubted you. You were Kazuma-sama's closest friend. Of course, you would never have done anything to hurt him. That should have been obvious to me from the start. But I allowed suspicion to get the better of me. And no matter how upset I was feeling, it was completely unforgivable behavior. No, you were in shock. You just found out about me.
No, I won't let you make excuses.
Whatever the circumstances, I should have never thrown you, and not just once, but 5 times. That number keeps creeping up. Please, you must. Just take hold of me and throw me.
Do it.
Don't even think about it. No, I don't even know how. I've never thrown anyone in my life. Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo. It isn't a skill one acquires without considerable training. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. I observed your throwing technique several times with great interest. I confess I was most impressed. When did he see that? I presume that would be a form of Japanese wrestling? Oh, well, in a way, it's not wrestling, but my own interpretation of an ancient jujitsu technique. Apparently, it's called the Suzato Takedown. It leaves your head swimming, believe me. How beguiling. I am a practitioner of the combative arts myself. I am somewhat an accomplished boxer. There he goes, dancing around. I wonder if you would be so kind as to instruct me on the technique of your arresting throw. Yes, I'd be honored. Then let us not dally. Demonstrate, my dear madam. Oh, of course. Are you ready, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Oh, yeah, here we go again. As you can see, you throw from the abdomen. Oh, yes, arresting indeed, and this is what you term the Suzato Takedown, is it? Actually, no, that was a Suzato Squash. In my groggy state of consciousness, a scene from an evening recently spent with Kazuma flickered into my mind. Kuruma? That's right, it's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. I can't believe you managed to get permission to bring it with you. I mean, taking a katana on a study tour is more than a little irregular, surely. A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. I can't be parted from my katana. Karuma guides me, I truly believe that. So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two? Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject, there is something very important that I have to do in Great Britain, and I'll sacrifice anything to make it happen. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to you at the end. With you to the end. I knew you wouldn't let me down. It's gonna be a little hard to find out what that was now. That important thing he had to do. I still don't know what it was. But I'm going to see the place for myself and work it out. In Great Britain's capital, London. We did it, team. We solved the murder. Well, not really a murder. We solved the mystery. And that's as far as I got. No, I also still have a save, but thank you. Oh, fuck. Let's go. The runaway room. Oh.